Welcome to DeFi by Design, where we talk all things blockchain and cryptocurrency while striving to educate, empower, and enrich.
What's up, guys? It's your boy Andy. Real quick, just want to tell you about the sponsors that make the DeFi by Design podcast possible. First, we have 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵. 𝗵𝗶𝗴 is a non-custodial money market protocol where you can go and leverage your assets and earn interest. So you can go in there and deposit about 10 or 20 assets, ETH, any stable coins, wrap Bitcoin, a whole bunch link, and you can lend them and you can borrow tokens to go long, to go short, to earn interest. Head over to app.𝗵𝗶𝗴.com. Check it out. They have V2 is coming soon. Check out 𝗵𝗶𝗴. Next, we have DeFi. DeFi is a layer 2 gasless decentralized exchange on Ethereum. They use Starkware to conduct their trades on layer 2. The token 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗵 has a liquidity mining scheme ongoing, and they have a bunch of cool stuff coming in. So if you want to trade on L2 in order books, not just swaps, check out DeFi. They're awesome. With that being said, let's get right back to the show. I hope you guys enjoy. And again, check out 𝗵𝗶𝗴 at app.𝗵𝗶𝗴.com and DeFi at DeFi.com to lend and borrow and trade on L2. Cheers, guys. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the DeFi by Design podcast. As usual, we are here with your boy Andy and Rob, sliding in, talking about all things DeFi, Ethereum, what's going on in the markets. The markets are hot. Yield farming and the meme coins, maybe not so hot anymore, but hey, we're still here. We're still building real products and securing DeFi, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're also here with Roxana from Nexus Mutual. She's doing great, and we are excited to talk about what's going on in DeFi. Yeah, Robbie, how are you doing today? What's going on? How you feeling?
Yeah, man, super excited. Another beautiful day in Florida. Like you said, markets are hot. I was in the winter a little bit. It was cold, but now, like you said, markets are hot, temperatures are hot. So I'm feeling good. Life is great. Happy to be here with Roxana from Nexus Mutual. We talk a lot about, like you said, the meme coins, markets pumping, what products are getting built. Well, Nexus Mutual does a lot to kind of make sure everything works in a well-oiled machine fashion. The insurance that it offers, we'll hear a lot more from Roxana, but I think this is one of the most important, one of the most crucial products that's available in DeFi and really going to continue to progress the industry. So I'm excited to have Roxana on, and I'll let her take it away and introduce herself.
Hey guys, it's great to be here. I'm the CTO of Nexus Mutual. I joined the company about a year ago. A lot of things have happened in the last year. Just a bit of background, I'm an engineer by training. I studied, I think I'm going on too long, so I'll just leave it at, here.
Oh, come on. So you're the chief technical officer, so you understand the code, you understand all the developing that goes on kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah, I built the engineering team from scratch, and it's been a lot of fun doing so.
Nice. And I bet there's kind of a lot going on back there, isn't there?
It is, yeah, for sure. Nexus is one of the most complex systems of smart contracts out there, I could say. There are a lot of moving pieces, and we have to be really careful in our processes. On top of that, we are covering other protocols. So as you can imagine, security is really, really top of mind for us.
Yeah, because if the insurance protocol gets hacked itself, then that doesn't really help out the other protocols that are being insured.
We're in big trouble if that happens, yeah.
No, I'm just messing around. It's all good.
Yeah. And Roxana, you mentioned that you were an engineer by trade. Did you always have Solidity on your mind, or was it just anything computer science? How did you take the leap from development and computer science into Ethereum and Solidity and smart contracts?
That's a good question. I think like a lot of people in the space, I went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole a couple of years ago. I was just working in one of the big tech companies at the time, having nothing to do with, Ethereum wasn't even really around at that point. But what really intrigued me about the whole crypto space is how it managed to bring together a couple of different disciplines and, really innovate in the space. And I think I was really attracted by the philosophy behind it and all this like new tooling that would help us coordinate a lot of people. When Ethereum came along, I was just following from the side, but I didn't really learn how to code in Solidity until later on. I had a couple of attempts and I made a lot of stupid mistakes at the beginning. while I was learning stuff. And basically, at some point, I decided to leave big tech and actually start on a more of an entrepreneurial journey. And it wasn't crypto at first. Although I was hanging out with crypto people, I was following closely what was going on, but I thought I would still be doing something closer to my expertise. So I started a company in the infrastructure space, closer to my previous experience. But then I was going out and pitching it to VCs, and we would end up talking about crypto 5 minutes in. And that was kind of the point that triggered me to actually pursue this crypto full time. And yeah, I just basically decided to wrap up my previous project and join something exciting in the space. And I kind of learned like Solidity on my own to be able to really dive in.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's super necessary, obviously, for any sort of smart contract protocol to, understand how to write Solidity and build it properly. And then obviously there's auditors and there's a lot of pieces that go into it. It's very easy from like the UI perspective just to be like, okay, like press these few buttons, approve a few transactions, and I'm good. But we don't really understand what goes on behind the scenes. And I think that's, it's obviously super crucial for the ecosystem itself. Now, kind of shifting that to Nexus and building Nexus, for those of our audience, most people probably know what Nexus is, but for those who don't, a brief explainer of kind of what it is, what the vision is, would be super appreciated.
Right. Nexus is we like to call it a decentralized alternative to insurance. It's basically a protocol that offers discretionary cover for any smart contract out there, and it protects against smart contract bugs in particular. This is
cool. And I mean, it's $1 billion industry.
It
is literally in every facet of our lives, insurance.
I think in any new economy, insurance is one of the core infrastructure primitives that needs to develop and mature in order for more established players to get in. And we've seen in particular, as smart contracts developed and protocols became composable, we've seen that risk piling up and accumulating. And I think it's a very crucial problem to solve in the ecosystem in order to both keep the existing users safe, but also attract more institutional-like players that can actually really help drive adoption of DeFi at a larger scale.
So you mentioned how it's a pretty important piece of any beginning economy and like how it's going to mature. How is the dynamic at Nexus Mutual between some of the more finance inclined people and then some of the more developer inclined skill set? Because like you said, you're CTO, but you're mentioning kind of these necessities of beginning economies. Is that something that a lot of people at Nexus Mutual have? How's the balance between like the finance people and the development side over at Nexus Mutual?
Right. So I guess I'll just give you a very brief history of the team and how it evolved. The protocol was founded by 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗵 about 3 years ago. And he comes from the insurance industry where he spent about 20 years of his career. So he comes with a very solid background when it comes to both insurance primitives, but also, financial knowledge. And that gets complemented by the engineering team, which is fairly small at the moment. We have 3 engineers and myself. And then that's kind of how we balance out. We're still kind of a very, very small team and, iterating, working, trying to develop this step by step. So on purpose, we don't want to grow big yet. But I think from that point of view, we have a good balance given the expertise of Hugh, and that complements really, really well the engineering aspect of it.
Yeah. Do you think your background has an effect on the way that you see the vision of DeFi, right? Because we were talking about this a few hours ago, Rob and I. It's just you've got a few ideas of what people believe to be DeFi, right? It's there's the fully revolutionized bankless, all the way down that route. And then there's kind of a happy middle in between that and the middle. And then you got the straight middle where it's kind of okay, we can use some CeFi, some centralized, but some DeFi. And then you've got a little bit to the right of that, and then fully just centralized exchanges, 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗵 everything. So, where do you think that you align on that spectrum? And how does that apply to Nexus or to, what you believe to be true? And where do you see yourself?
So personally, I'm kind of a center person, as in I really believe that in order to really come up with innovation, we need to go iteratively. We are solving really hard problems in this industry, and I think it's really, really hard to align incentives in the right way from the very beginning, which is why I think, iterations are really important. Now, I also come from a background of move fast and break things, but iteratively, that was a very core part of Facebook, where I used to be previously. And Nexus itself definitely sits in the middle. We are a decentralized protocol. We also have a bunch of centralized components, and on top of that, we have KYC. Maybe this is a good point to touch a little bit on, the structure of Nexus.
For sure, because it kind of alarmed me at first when I went on the platform and it was this whole community kind of membership KYC process. I'm not going to lie, it turned me off for a second, but I'd love to kind of understand the thought process and behind that.
As you know, insurance in the traditional world is a very regulated industry. And one of the core challenges with building a protocol that's fully decentralized is you have to be able to not get shut down by regulators. And that can really kill any sort of innovation. And I think in order to do that, you have two options. You either go full decentralized Uniswap style, where you sit down, you build a really what you believe to be a sturdy version of your protocol, you launch it, you don't change it at all, you come back with V2 and so on and so forth. So then basically the protocol runs in the wild, it's fully decentralized. But we found that it's really, really, really hard to fully align incentives. And if you ask, if you think about it, insurance really is about coordination and incentive alignments. And if we don't do that right, we basically won't make it. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we believe that we're definitely closer to, the synthetics of this industry, where we believe in this iterative approach, and we thought that having a legal framework behind that we can rely on would give us some clarity and higher chances to actually be able to make it. This is why we went with this discretionary mutual, which is a community-based legal framework in the UK, where members, it's like a membership-based organization, members pull in their funds together, and then they share the profits and share the losses at the same time, if you may. It's very similar to the concept of DAOs in
DAO. I was going to say, it sounds super similar. And so this is this is a registered entity in the sense that you guys have gone towards regulators or entities of nation states and basically been like, look, we have this idea, it's working, it's great, it's a part of this new concept, and this is how we're doing it. And so that's kind of the route that y'all chose to take.
Yeah, basically. So mutuals are entities used in the traditional insurance world as well. That's been the inspiration for them. And they go quite, way back in history as a form. But yeah, that's the route we chose and we're going with for now. That doesn't mean we're never going to actually, fully decentralized. We are every day whenever we plan new features, we're thinking on how can we make sure we don't make any assumptions based on the fact that today there is KYC. And we try to design the protocol in such a way that in the future it could evolve to, a fully decentralized platform.
Yeah, and Roxana, I don't think that we think that's bad by any means. It's not good or bad. It just is. It's a way of doing things in DeFi that I would feel almost ensures the community a bit more strength in the project, right? Because, for example, let's go with, I guess we go with 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵, for example, right? Yes, 𝗵𝗶 has been registered in the UK, and it's they have a company being and all that stuff. But if the regulators just shut them down, there would be so many people who would be screwed, right? Whereas basically, and I use 𝗵𝗶 as an example, but there's hundreds of other unaudited ones that would be a better example. Whereas you guys kind of just took the proactive step, and we're actually talking to the Melon protocol girl about this. She was saying it's better to take that proactive step. And I think that was probably the right move. Robbie, what do you think? How do you feel about having a legal entity and being able to kind of bring that world into the DeFi world?
Yeah. Partially what Roxana said, I think really resonates in terms of having a centralized team. If you go full decentralized, that's something that you really can't ever come back from. It's tough to go and then bring some subset of that community into a hierarchy that's kind of above the rest of the community. And to align incentives, that's really important. And when you're making a step that you can't really come back from it, it's going to kind of speed up and accelerate the iterative process that Roxana deems so important. And I think there is certain aspects, like we talked about with Melon, they're in asset management, Roxana and their centralized team in insurance. These are two aspects of an economy that are way more regulated in the traditional sense and might need
Then like interest rates are, than just like a borrow or lending,
yeah, they might need some sort of centralization even in a more decentralized economy. So I think it's like you said, proactive but also forward thinking to understand, okay, this industry is still early. It's going to be important to have a centralized team starting out, and then maybe you can iterate towards decentralized. But it is a spectrum, and it's not going to fit in every single protocol in the same way. So,
the good thing is speculators can, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but speculators can still invest in Nexus just by using wrapped Nexus Mutual, WNXM. I don't know if Roxana likes that, but it's a profitable trade if you make it a trade, Maybe,
Roxana, you can explain a little bit more about the Nexus token and how it accrues value, and then maybe some insight into the wrapped Nexus Mutual token and what your thoughts are on there.
Right. So the Nexus token kind of sits on top of everything else. Like, I'll just step back for a second. We have the mutual, we have the members that, pull together capital, and that's the core component of Nexus, the capital pool that's currently in ETH. You can contribute ETH to the pool, and you get in return NXM, the native token. And NXM is used in various parts of the system to basically align incentives between various participants in the protocol. Now, the NXM token is a bit different than many others in the space in the sense that its price is actually given by a bonding curve and is designed for capital efficiency. It is designed in such a way that when the mutual needs more funds, it basically the price slides down on the curve, and it becomes cheaper to get into the mutual, to contribute to the capital of the mutual. Once we have way too much capital compared to the active covers that we have that we would have to pay in case of an event, the price goes up on the curve, I could say exponentially, because that's a sign that we have surplus capital. We don't actually need that, so we want to be efficient and basically at that point give an option to people to exit and cash out on some of the profit. NXM can only be traded and transferred among members of the mutual that have been KYC'd on our platform, and it's and then wrapped NXM is an interesting one. It has been built by some of our community members, and that's one thing I really love about DeFi, this whole composability aspect of it, and the fact that literally anybody can go in and build stuff on top of these protocols. Basically one day we ended up with someone from the community letting us know that they built this thing, they wrapped an XM, and it's publicly available for anyone to trade. And the rest is history, I guess. Wrapped NXM cannot be used within the system, like you can't natively stake it or anything, like you can't really use it in any way inside the system, but in a way gives this exposure to outside people to the core of Nexus.
Yeah, to basically speculate on the value proposition of the bonding curve without basically participating. But I don't know, this might be a little technical, but basically, if there's a lot of buyers for WNXM on Uniswap, for example, but the capital allocations aren't representative of that in the Nexus, has that happened? Is that a problem? Like, can that happen? Like, I'm just a tad confused there.
So you cannot buy more than it's wrapped. But what we've seen happening is that there are quite a lot of arbitrage bots that end up equalizing the price, balancing out the price in time.
Okay, of course. Right. Yeah.
So we haven't quite seen any sort of big gaps in the price between the two tokens.
Nice. Yeah, that MCR curve is just ridiculously complicated. Like I was reading it one day, Rob. Like Rob, you'd probably understand it, man. Like I bet if I gave it to you for an hour, I bet you'd be able to like fully explain it. But like, bro, it is fucking. It's tough.
It gets easily very technical.
Yeah. What are you saying, Rob?
Yeah, I was going to take it a little bit more in the direction of the traditional insurance route. Oh, maybe away from the token a little bit, but when I was going through Nexus and some of the documents, it seemed like the road that you guys have chosen is to kind of start to encroach on the traditional insurance markets. I saw something for earthquake insurance and moving away from just smart contract insurance. Do you guys have plans for that in the near future, or is that kind of later down the road? And how are you bringing decentralized nature to the traditional insurance market?
Interesting question. So actually the earthquake insurance that gets mentioned in a couple of places, I think even the white paper, was the original version of what we ended up building. Given that Hugh comes from a traditional insurance background, he kind of saw more of the opportunity in serving underserved markets from, the real world. Because of the limitations of Ethereum at the time, even now, but especially at the time, and how difficult it is to use and all that stuff, it kind of became clear quite quickly that wasn't feasible at the time. The whole DeFi market started developing, and it was made a lot more sense to kind of build something native to the market. We are smart contract bugs is the first product we launch. We definitely have in mind launching new products. Some of them, the first ones are still going to be within the smart contract space because we still think there are a lot of different types of risks that we are not covering today. Eventually, we would love to be able to get in the real world, so to say. Obviously, that doesn't only depend on us. There are a bunch of limitations that Ethereum has, both in terms of usability and cost, that we need to that I think the whole ecosystem needs to mature more in order to be able to serve more real world markets. Now, that being said, the way the protocol has been designed, it literally allows for any type of risk to be covered. As long as there is someone willing to take the bet on the other side, we can cover any risk. You just need someone to actually stake on it and, basically bet in a way that risk is, that event is, unlikely to happen.
Yeah. And I know in traditional insurance, it's almost a matter of time horizon, right? Where the insurance company knows, okay, over this amount of time, we'll see this amount of car accidents or this amount of earthquakes. And they can just push that time horizon farther. Is that idea paralleled in Nexus Mutual's model, where it's really the mutuals that have a longer time horizon and then maybe people taking more short-term bets on the other side?
Not really. Okay. One of the main consequences with, in traditional insurance, in order to cover any risk, you just need a lot of upfront data. You need data, historic data, in order to be able to price it accurately. And this is one of the main reasons why it takes time in any emerging market. It takes time for insurance to kind of emerge. We kind of removed that limitation by pricing the risk based on someone taking the other side of it. This whole staking mechanism that we designed. So from that point of view, we don't really need any sort of historical data on how often did these incidents actually happen. If there are people who put their money on the fact that risk is fairly low, then we can take it to market right away.
Okay. It's starting to sound a lot more like a prediction market for risk now that, or at least when you don't have that historical data, you're trusting that the market is going to determine some likelihood, and then that likelihood or that probability is fairly accurate in terms of the insurance model.
It's definitely closer, to a prediction market approach from the staking point of view.
Yeah. So how does the total value locked in Nexus work? Is that just the amount of capital in the mutual?
Yeah, exactly. That's the ETH that people are contributing when they buy the token, or the premiums that people are paying. Right now, it's mostly ETH. There is a part of it in DAI as well, because we offer covering both ETH and DAI. And we're actually working on a feature that would allow investing further some of those assets to, generate extra profits for the mutual members.
Nice. Yeah, this is certainly a topic that regulators and people that have big bankrolls that would like to get into DeFi would be seriously interested in entertaining. Almost so much so that I feel like it could be a business model to try to pitch this idea to very wealthy people who are looking to, get returns on their money, or trying to understand a new industry, because one of the big reasons why crypto is still just kind of like crypto is just because it's like the Wild West. There's no backing, and what Nexus does is it kind of gives a backing, almost like it's still not backed by a government, but it's at least backed by something that has a on-chain capital allocation that you can see, and that kind of gives you peace of mind when you're going to bed.
Well, that's also like the capital pool is people contribute money there. And like the other side of it is that if there is an event that happens and someone actually makes a claim on the cover that they had purchased before, the payout goes out from the capital pool. And then, if someone took the other side of the risk, their NXM tokens would be burned. But the whole point of insurance, the whole point of how we build the system from this point of view is to be under collateralized. So you never really have all the assets that you need to pay out all the existing claims. You just rely on the fact that the events are to a certain extent independent, and they won't happen, all at once. If all smart contracts get hacked at the same time, then probably we have much bigger issues.
Then we could just we'll just kiss Ethereum bye and go back to our day jobs if that happens.
Pretty much. Ethereum 2.0.
Oh yeah, it filled up yesterday. That was crazy. Whales.
Is it up? Is it up to 100%?
So quick. Oh yeah, dude. Like it was crazy. It was like every 10 minutes, like 10,000 Ethereum, 20,000 Ethereum. It was just like, what the heck just happened?
It's fascinating to see.
So I feel like a total noob for not knowing what this means, but I know that the Beacon chain is now getting started. The validators are staking; they're earning interest. So what's the next step? It goes towards like the launch on December 1st, I think, for the genesis of ETH 2.0 or something like that.
Yeah, I think they need to launch the mainnet blockchain. Maybe Roxana has some more details on how.
No, we are subpar Ethereum community members right now.
Yeah,
Jesus, my goodness. I just know that on December 1st, like Genesis is launching. I think it's the genesis of ETH 2.0, but we're still in phase 0. But phase 1 and 2 are already happening at the same time. So it's not like we have to finish phase 0 and then go to 1 and then go to 2. It's like we got to finish 0 and then finish 1 and finish 2, and then we're good.
Yeah, I think the mainnet launch that you're talking about is December 1st, where they're going to bring really 2.0 onto mainnet and be able to facilitate transactions. But to me, 2.0 isn't complete until we see sharding, right? And then that's where you can start to split the transactions across different shards of the blockchain.
Yeah, and the EIP 1559 with the burning of the transaction fees to reduce the supply.
Roxana, is there any capabilities that Nexus is missing out on because of scaling and like not able to handle because of transaction output? And
also over the summer, like how is that? How did you guys handle that? Like was that just an absolute like crazy wild shit show, or like was it like was it decent?
Well, I'll just take them one at a time. I wouldn't say that we have capabilities that are missing because of scaling, but definitely a lot of the transactions that happen on our platform are quite expensive. Costs are supported, if you buy cover, the cost is supported by you, the user, buying cover. Staking is one of the more expensive ones, even more expensive than buying cover. And we've had a lot of requests from users to, guys, please do something. Obviously, there's not something we can do immediately about it. The other side of things is that, as I said, there are a couple of transactions that, there are a couple of events that happen in the system, and there are, the transactions are being triggered by the foundation, by the Nexus team itself, and we cover the costs. And this summer it's been a little bit crazy with the amount of staking. Like the whole activity in the DeFi space started blowing up with yield farming and all that stuff. Right at the same time, we launched a new staking mechanism that had better rewards, more flexibility, and all that stuff. People started staking, and we had this like rewards distribution mechanism that was fully on chain but needed a poke. And we were basically doing the poking. And we had crazy fees this summer because we had a lot of people staking, a lot of covers being bought, which meant a lot of rewards to actually be distributed. and we were getting to the limit of the cost we had to cover, and we had to basically drop a bunch of the work we had planned and just focus on some solutions here. And yeah, we ended up batching a bunch of the transactions, so we reduced costs a couple of significantly. But yeah, it's expensive. A lot of the transactions on Nexus are expensive, and we've heard people complaining. But none of the solutions existing out there today can really help us. I think there's a lot has been done and achieved in the transfer space. If you just transfer tokens, then you can already get cheaper transfers with solutions that already exist. But for the more complex operations that we're doing, there is a bit more until mainnet.
Yeah, when there's four transactions or 8 transactions within one transaction, yeah, it's tough. Yeah, you can use Rails right now for all sorts of. It's super cheap. It's on L2, and you can transfer any Ethereum token from wallet to wallet for basically nothing.
Yeah, so basically transfers are pretty well covered right now.
Do you guys have any exciting updates coming in the as far as on the roadmap? Potentially any liquidity mining schemes that are appearing, or anything like that? That you can share.
Regarding liquidity mining, we did launch a couple of, I think it's been months now, this shield mining program where some of the protocols listed on our platform would offer rewards in their native tokens for Nexus members that would stake on their protocols. And we had 2 campaigns that went around, with one for TBTC and one for 𝗵𝗵𝗃. And we're working with other protocols that are going to be listed on similar campaigns. In terms of other updates, I briefly mentioned earlier the investment ability for investment capabilities for the assets in the pool. That's getting close to completion. We're looking at launching new products that we're going to announce soon. There is one coming very, very soon, and which is a bit different than, it's something that I think it's quite innovative and something that hasn't quite been done before in the space. We are also looking into we call it full stack cover, but basically right now we only cover bugs in smart contracts. But as you've seen lately, there's been a lot of attacks around Oracle failure, manipulation of external data sources, and all that stuff. That expands to governance attacks, but also to economic incentive failure is yet another type of risk, like the Black Thursday when DAI lost the peg. And we are working on a product that can be comprehensive and basically cover any sort of event that leads to loss of funds to the asset owner. And I think that's going to be quite exciting.
Yeah, even flash loans.
Yeah.
Those flash loans exploits are insane.
Yep, it's the thing about flash loans is that the exploits were possible before flash loans, but only available to really large whales, while now they suddenly became easy to execute. Well, easy. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but a lot more accessible to literally anybody.
Yeah, it's crazy. So wild. And that's been every big exploit. And there's been so much talk about the ethics of it, whether it's legal or not, whether it's fair market practice, how to punish, how to change, how to fix. And I mean, the one thing that I've seen is the Chainlink community has come together big time and basically try to use this as a huge marketing angle for you guys should be using Chainlink oracles. This wouldn't happen.
Well, to be honest, I think first of all, we have to kind of, each of us, the builders in the space, kind of have to look inside and revise our practices, after you've seen 4 exploits around oracles in the market, I think it's time to kind of evaluate, am I susceptible to such exploits? Because I think it's kind of the same play every time. The attacks are quite similar. So that's the first step, and kind of design in a way that's defensive and knowing that this is a massive risk, just improve on the design practices of the protocol, which is why, again, immutability is very tricky. While it has a lot of benefits, when the whole ecosystem develops and something like flash loans comes around out of the blue, it could potentially lead to unfortunate events for the protocol users. There is no way for you to kind of take into account in the design this new development.
Yeah, that's why slowly entering into decentralization, whether it's governance and protocol capabilities and admin keys and such, is key. I mean, the community might not like it, and the crypto community might not like it if you freeze something or pause or revert something. But I mean, if it saves the users funds, I mean, then that's a step in the right direction. At least there's got to be a happy medium, in there somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And Roxana, you mentioned that Nexus only covers bugs right now, so it's not covering flash loans or any of the other attack vectors, because that's what we've seen is, as DeFi continues to innovate, people are continuing to build. There's more attack vectors just popping up left and right. So it seems like Nexus is the front runner to kind of keep pace with all of that. If you guys do offer some sort of full stack, is that what it's intended to cover? Is really top to bottoms, bugs, flash loans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally full stack, whatever happens. And even, you have these different types of attack vectors, let's say, or potential risk categories that you get exposed when you use a protocol, but then you also get exposed to kind of the composability of DeFi. And it's not like you only get exposed to these risks in one protocol, but most likely a couple. And then we would intend to cover full stack, whatever incident that leads to loss in the assets that you basically had.
Because composability makes things much more susceptible from the risk category, and that's why insurance is so important. Is because you need to cover your tracks once everything starts building on top of each other. It's critical to make sure that base layer, and kind of as levels grow, as the structure builds, that foundation is really secure. So,
and I think it makes a lot of sense, especially in a world where, well, it's not quite the same as the summer anymore, but in a world driven by high yields and a lot of yield farming and liquidity mining and this kind of stuff. Given that we operate in an under-collateralized way and we can drop prices, we can have quite competitive prices. It's almost like a shame not to, like shameless plug, but it's almost like a shame to not get covered for those, for exposing yourself to those protocols.
So you would recommend every DeFi power user to get covered, you would think?
At least some.
At least some. I agree. I think that I'm sure the KYC process slows a lot of people down, but it's a necessity. It is what guarantees basically the fact that you have insurance, in some sense, it basically gives you that ability to be part of a legal entity.
Now, the other interesting stuff is that we've seen people building, again, members of the community, the wider Ethereum community, building on top of Nexus. And 𝗋∗ during the summer madness, they build up a integration on top of Nexus that would basically tokenize the cover and then sell the cover as an NFT to any user, anybody out there.
Yeah.
So there are interesting developments,
cool.
In this from this point of view as well. You obviously have
Have you looked into?
Sorry. Go.
Wait, you can finish.
When you do that, you obviously have an additional layer of intermediation, which means exposure to another smart contract that comes with its own risk. That's the trade-off. But yeah, there are alternatives to put it that way.
Have you looked into 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 protocol? They just kind of launched recently, actually launched. I think they had some covered claims on the Pickle finance hack.
Yeah, I think they paid it. We've been watching the space there. 𝗵𝗶𝗴 is one of the competitor protocols that came out recently. There are a bunch of other ones. I think that the more players come in the space, the more the need for good, let's call it cover/insurance layer is. And if you think about it, at our peak, we managed to cover around 3% of the total value locked in DeFi. you do the maths on how much more there is to for this space to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I saw some tweet back in the day, and some guy was bashing Nexus, like, oh, this is the insurance platform, but guess what? They only have 100 million in total value locked, and there's 12 billion in DeFi. I was like, all right, dude, like, quit being a dick. Like, it's a process, buddy.
There's a lot of room, is what I'm trying to say. With Cover, I think both Cover,
Pump the price, Roxana.
We're not doing price talk. But I think with Cover and a bunch of other protocols coming around, one of the main challenge is pricing, like getting to comparably low prices on the Cover. And I'm looking forward to see how they innovate in the space and how they manage to continuously drive their prices down. Like if you look right now, like when I last looked, I think a couple of days ago, their Cover prices were quite significantly higher than what we can offer right now. But yeah, it's exciting to see how this plays out.
And does their pricing model, does their business does their pricing model change? Is it different than y'all's, or is it pretty similar? Like per claim, per time, expiration?
To be honest, I wouldn't know the details. Like I imagine that it's prorated based on the amount you insure and the amount of time you cover it for.
You hold it in there, right?
But I don't know the details of what factors contribute to actually setting their price per unit.
But that's basically, how the insurance industry works, is basically how much you're insuring, how much capital, and then how long you'd like to hold the cover. Yeah,
in a way, as in, I guess depends. You can price things in various ways. You can be, and honestly, because I haven't looked deeply into it, I have no idea how they would do it. In our case, I can tell you how Nexus does it, but because we have the stakers taking the other part of the risk, basically, the more NXM are staked on a given contract, the lower the price gets. And then it has like a low floor of about 2.6% annually of the cover amount, and it's like purely driven by the amount of stake from that point of view.
So basically, the amount of people that believe that cover is not going to be needed, like the cheaper it gets. Basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Yeah, that makes total sense.
And whenever covers get bought, rewards get generated and distributed to the people staking on that contract. But then, in case the claim is getting paid, the people staking would actually get slashed, burned. Their tokens would get burned to cover the loss.
Right. Which is unfortunate, but that's kind of like the name of the game,
That's why. This is why aligning incentives from this point of view is really important, because if people end up being burned too much, or if claim assessors end up denying claims so they don't get burned because they are staking, these are all dynamics that are very fragile and really, really, really important to get right. Is the whole core of it.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That is a lot to take in. We are about out of time here. It's been a short one, but it has been solid. Rob, do you have any questions? Anything that you're curious about left?
Yeah, I mean, this has been super interesting. Kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities of insurance on the blockchain. I think it's really cool the way that different protocols are aligning incentives, especially the way Nexus is doing it. Kind of what was going through my head is, okay, well, I like to play devil's advocate. If I'm a hacker, is there any opportunity for someone to bet? Once someone has this flash loan figured out, maybe we can take this recent hack on 𝗶𝗶𝗃. Once this guy has the flash loan figured out and he knows he's going to swap the jar for the jar, can he then go and bet quite a bit of money on an insurance protocol like Nexus or Cover? Say, hey, I think this protocol is going to get hacked sometime soon, and then he goes and deploys the flash loan. Is that something that Nexus is worried about? Have you seen it in the past? Kind of, are there precautions to prevent that?
So I'm just going to clarify a few things. If the Attacker, like these are definitely things. These are definitely things we think about, and this comes down to aligning incentives and making sure participants to the protocol do the right thing. But so if you're preparing a flash loan attack, you would most likely want to buy cover, not to stake. Because if you stake, the attack goes on, and then eventually claim gets paid out.
You get slashed.
Then you get slashed. So that's no good. If you go and buy a cover, you have that chance. You go and buy a cover, like 2 days later, you run your evil exploit. All good. There are a couple of, there is a social layer you have to go through. Well, first of all, more recent change we made was to introduce proof of loss. So whenever you make a claim, you need to prove that you had an address that was, that you had like access to an address. So you have to give a cryptographic signature from that address to, that has a history of transactions that prove that you lost funds. So that's the first part. The second part, the attack you're doing has to be covered currently. So in this case, it would only be currently it would only be covered if it's a smart contract bug and not a flash loan. But let's say we roll out the comprehensive cover, so flash loans are covered as well. And the last line of defense of the mutual are the actual claim assessors. So when a claim is being submitted, there is a group of people who actually stake some tokens. So again, they have an incentive to do the right thing, and then they decide if this is a valid claim to be paid out or not. I guess if you're really, really smart, you can get away with all of it.
So in this instance, you'd have to be a claim assessor, and you'd have to buy cover, and you'd have to be a
it would have to be an inside job, right? To be a
trifecta.
validator.
Roxana, the evil genius over here.
Oh no! Don't start
thinking
pointing
about
fingers.
Hopefully Hugh's not listening to this one. Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm kidding. Well, hey, that was absolutely awesome. It was a pleasure, Roxana. I am about out of questions and topics. I mean, that was great. I think the folks that are listening definitely got a lot from it. Rob and I learned, and I hope you as well. And I'm glad that we can make the time for this.
Thanks for having me. It's definitely been fun, and you guys keep doing what you're doing.
Rob?
Absolutely. Do you have any questions for us? It's been an absolute pleasure, like Andy mentioned.
Questions for you. Oh, you caught me unprepared. How did you get started with a podcast, actually? I'm very curious.
We actually hit up our first buddy from University of Florida. He was in like the blockchain kind of club, like in the sphere. He was always interested in crypto and stuff. And he ended up working at MakerDAO out in San Francisco as like an integrations lead. So he was like, yo, you want to be on the podcast? He's like, hell yeah. And then it just clicked from there. And then, yeah, it just went. And so we met in school. And then, yeah.
How do you manage to keep up with DeFi and actually study and go to school? This is a full-time job of its own.
I don't know. Rob's a genius, so that he handles it pretty well. I'm like on and off of school, so like I kind of just take my time.
School takes a back seat sometimes to DeFi, but I somehow find time to keep it all together. So it goes well together with my majors and my different interests. So I see it as entertainment sometimes, but also it's an academic hobby, so it's always interesting.
That's fine. Does any of you code, or have you played with Solidity at all?
I've hardly
attempted. Yeah. I've dipped my toes in, but that's about it.
But if we are looking for a flash loan evil genius to hack a protocol, we might hit you up.
We know exactly where to go.
We'll talk about
Put
that.
Put in touch with some friends,
Yeah, here we go. We'll buy an island and kick it out and flash loan all day. Let's go. Oh, man. All right, guys. Wait, that was fun. I'm about to go play a round of golf with the boys, actually. That is some American things right there. I'm not sure if they do that out there in Ukraine, but hey, I'm going to go play some golf with the boys. And yeah.
Sounds fun.
Roxana, this was fun. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the DeFi by Design podcast. Until next time, DeFi Slate Team.